Hi, welcome to the Israel First television program from our studios in Jerusalem, and we're here with a special Gaza report number 6, and we're going to be talking about what's happening in Israel at this time. Now, if you want to know about the actual things that are happening in Gaza and about what's happening elsewhere, you will have to look at the mainstream media. We want to give you information that you're not going to get anywhere else. So, going straight on, we are going to look at what's happening, because just as the time we're coming into the studio, we're coming up to the Christmas time. So we're going to be looking at Bethlehem, Nathalie, to start off with. It's somewhere Nathalie and I have been. Not so much a great time as we would have thought, but it was interesting. And we had the opportunity to go there with journalists. Now, the Jerusalem report has said that it's for Bethlehem. This is one of the people who works there, says it's the worst Christmas ever in the birthplace of Jesus, as war empties Bethlehem. Famous for the Christmas carol, O Little Town of Bethlehem. The city is normally its busiest at Christmas, but for this year, with the Gaza war, has scared away tourists and pilgrims, leaving hotels, restaurants and souvenir shops deserted. We have, this is one of the hotel owners speaking. He says, "We have no guests, not one," said Joey Avati, owner of the Alexander Hotel, whose family have lived and worked in Bethlehem for 4 generations. "This is the worst Christmas ever. Bethlehem is shut down for Christmas. No Christmas tree, no joy, no Christmas spirit," he said. Located just south of Jerusalem, Bethlehem is heavily reliant on the income and jobs of visitors to see the Church of the Nativity. This is the main focus when you visit Bethlehem. You go to see the Church of the Nativity. You can also see the Bethlehem fields, but most tourists will go to the Church of the Nativity, where it's claimed was the place of Jesus' birth in the stable. Now, Kanavati said that before October the 7th, his hotel was fully booked for Christmas, to the point that he was looking for rooms elsewhere for guests in the town to help out people who couldn't fit in. Well, that sounds kind of like no room at the inn. There was. But there is now plenty of room at the inn, to this extent that you can book multiple rooms. Since the war started, everyone has cancelled, including bookings for next year. I have actually talked on previous programs about the effect of the war on the economy in Israel and on the tourist industry, which has been, again, devastated. It was devastated during the COVID crisis, and now again it's been devastated. And many of the people who work in the tourist industry, whom we know, are having to find alternative work. All we get is email cancellations, cancellation after cancellation, Kanapati says. He took Reuters television news on a tour of the hotel, opening doors to empty rooms and showing the silent rooms, silent night. "We had at least 120 people having dinner here every night, and it was packed, the noise, the people, and now," he says, "it's empty. There's no Christmas breakfast, no Christmas dinner, no Christmas buffet," he said. Bethlehem's manger square, a large paved space in front of the Church of the Nativity, next to the town hall, by the way, that usually serves as the focal point for the Christmas celebrations, was quiet and almost empty, as nearby streets with souvenir shops were shuttered. Ronnie Tabash, who sells religious items in his family store, was tidying shelves and merchandise to pass the time. "We are almost 2 months without any pilgrims or any tourists," he said, adding that he was keeping the store open as a way to stave off hopelessness. "We want to feel that everything will be back like to normal life." In other words, everything is not normal. And I think this is a very important point, Nathalie, for the folks at home to realise. You can see the images from the mainstream media of Gaza and of the war, but what you don't realise is that everything is not back to normal in Israel itself, and indeed in Bethlehem and Judea and Samaria. Ala Salama, owner of the falafel restaurant Aftim, said his business was operating at 10%, 15% of capacity, just catering for local families rather than the usual influx of foreign visitors. He said he was keeping the restaurant open because his staff needed work. It's amazing that in the middle of everything, people are really trying their hardest to make things work despite very difficult circumstances. I have no workers. I can't give them money, feed their families and their children. And he said, this is very interesting. This is what we'll finish with this. This is what he says. We're praying for peace. You know, Bethlehem is the city where peace was born. So it should be the messenger for peace to be spread all over the world. What's very interesting is, of course, Jerusalem, which is very close to Bethlehem, is the city of peace, the city of shalom. And it says, pray for the peace of Jerusalem. It doesn't say, pray for the peace of London or New York or Paris. It says, pray for the peace of Jerusalem.
Because the peace will come. When peace is in Jerusalem, it will flow all around the world. Now, what you are saying about Bethlehem, I think is very interesting. Because also, you know, right now, the Jewish people, around Hanukkah, December, we are reading the passage is the end of Genesis, okay? And the end of Genesis is many chapters who speak about Jacob and his family and the story of Joseph. Joseph, who is sold by his brothers and go to Egypt and go to prison for a while, for 2 years, and then getting out because Pharaoh had a dream. I mean, it's just a fascinating story. And then there is a reconciliation with his brothers. But there is few steps, and he wants to make sure that his brothers really wants to reconcile with him and not also take side also for Benjamin, who was his brother. And Jacob is going to come, and all the family is going to come to Egypt, which is the place for a while before the redemption. So it's like God is in charge of all the history, okay? And when you read this story, you can see that Joseph, he was Jewish, he was part of the 12 tribes, but he was sold by his brothers, and there was a big rift for 22 years, which is a long time. He didn't see his brothers and his father for 22 years. And there is a reconciliation, and he said to them, please don't feel bad, because this was God who was doing that. And when you see the story, so he's like the son of Ben Yosef, which is interesting because Yeshua, Jesus, was also the Ben Yosef. He was the son of Yosef. And you can see a lot of parallel there. But the thing is, his brothers couldn't recognize him because he was like Pharaoh. He was not looking like a Jewish man anymore. He was like one of the top, just under Pharaoh. And so he wasn't wearing at all a Jewish garb and etc., etc. And so when you see that, he has to reveal himself to his brothers. And suddenly there is, when you read the passage, there is so much emotion, and Joseph is going to cry on one side, but he doesn't want, it takes a long time for him to really reveal himself to his brothers. There is different steps. And when you see about that, I'm just putting it in front of you. Yeshua, I think we are at the time where he's going to reveal himself to his brothers. And so there is the grab of Pharaoh has to go out, and he needs to show himself as a Jewish man. And I think with all the things that are happening right now, there is few people already who say, well, you know, Christmas is not the right time for Jesus. I mean, we know that obviously, because when he was there was no place in the inn, like you said. It was a time where there is a lot of people coming, and it couldn't be during the winter because like they will have been cold. It's cold in Jerusalem during the winter and in Bethlehem, which is just next to Jerusalem. And you can see that the sheep were outside and the shepherds were outside, and Joseph and Mary were going with the donkeys. I mean, obviously you can see that it's not the winter. You can search out and find out when it was time. We think more that it would be around tabernacle, which means that he tabernacled with us, which really makes sense. But the time maybe of Christmas was the time of his, he was when the angel declared to Mary, you are going to have a son. Okay, so you can look at all these things. But I think God is in charge of our history. And what's happening when we look at all the events, Christmas seems to be going down, and because Ben Yosef, the son of Joseph, the son of Jacob, Joseph, is going to reveal himself, and is taking all the Pharaoh's clothes that he had and is going to reveal his Jewishness to his brothers. And when you think about that, I think we are coming in the time where Yeshua is going to show himself as the Ben Yosef, and we are very close to the redemption. Maybe I can say just something again very interesting about all these things, because you know, God, the time on the earth is not going to go forever. God has a timetable, and we're coming at the end of the 6th millennium, and after is the 7th millennium, which is the Shabbat time. When you look in the week, in beginning of Genesis, you have 7 days. You have 6 days where you work, and then you have Shabbat. We spoke already about these things. And so there is a timetable, and we are coming into this time, and there is all the travel, but we need to know God is in charge of everything, and we need to have more and more faith in him. We trust in him. He knows that everything is going to be okay. When a mother is in labor, and we said that already, is hard work. But suddenly when the baby is there, you forgot about all the pain. And when redemption is going to happen, it will be the same. So we need to trust in him. And again, Joseph was there to feed all the people. There was a famine. Everybody was going to die. And he was there at the right time in Egypt, which may be not what the people were thinking, that it will be coming, that the salvation will come from Egypt, from the grain of Egypt. But it's what happened. God had planned everything the right way. So we really have to think and trust in him. And when we're afraid, we go back to him and we say, we trust that you are doing everything the most amazing way.
And you know, it's interesting because we don't really know how long things will last for. You know, we don't have the benefit of hindsight. It's very easy to look at things and say, well, you should know this, should know that. Well, not necessarily. When you're actually in it, it's very difficult to know exactly what's happening. But we get clues in the news, and the mainstream media, unfortunately, a lot of it, the majority of it is propaganda, but sometimes they'll throw out a story and it gives you a clue. Now, one of the questions people have been asking is, well, how long will this go on for? I would like to say it will be finished quickly, but I don't think so. I can't see an end at the moment. Now, listen to this. It says, National Security Advisors indicated that a war against Hezbollah is likely once Hamas is defeated. So in other words, even if we come to the end of the war in Gaza, then there's Hezbollah in the north. The National Security Advisor Hannah Gabi says the threat of the Lebanese terror group attempting an October the 7th style attack cannot be tolerated. Hannah Gabi indicates Israel's war on terror has no sign of ending. By the way, this guy came out of nowhere. He was previously a government minister, but now has suddenly at this time become the national security minister. And he indicated that once Hamas is defeated in Gaza, whatever that means, Israel may have to go to war against Hezbollah across the northern border. Hamas is in the south, for those who are looking at the map, and the Lebanon is in the north, where Hezbollah terrorists are. Whilst the Jewish state has long been worried by the threat posed to Israel by Hezbollah's missile arsenal, they are primarily concerned about there being another sort of attack like we had in Gaza from Hezbollah. Some 60,000 residents of the border communities have been evacuated from the north since October the 7th. I've talked about this before, but a lot of the hotels in Israel are now full, no room at the inn, with people who've been evacuated. You may remember that they evacuated the southern border communities, while they've also evacuated the northern border communities. So these people have been moved out of their home, out of their community, and are now in hotel or bed and breakfast accommodation throughout the country. And so it's having an impact on the country, because suddenly schools which had a small, even the local school from the studios accepted, we have now evacuees in the school system. So it means everything. So these children who were in the north or the south now have to make new friends. And so it's a big upheaval for the children, for the parents, for everybody, Nathalie. And Hannah Gabi says, we can no longer accept Radwan forces sitting on the border. We cannot accept resolution 701, this is a UN resolution not being implemented, he added, referring to a United Nations Security Council resolution at the end of the Second Lebanon War that barred Hezbollah presence within 30 kilometers of the border with Israel. And they haven't been 30 kilometers, they haven't even been 1 kilometer next to the fence. Asked directly if there would be a war in the north, Hannah said, the situation in the north must be changed, and it will change. If Hezbollah agrees to change things by diplomacy, very good, but if they don't, there'll be war. Therefore, when the day comes, Israel will have to act to ensure the residents of the north are no longer displaced in their land, and to guarantee for them that the situation in the north has changed. So, to answer your question, no, we don't have any time length at all on what's going on, which is very interesting. It's a bit like the situation in Ukraine, where there is no length of time or even knowledge of really what's going on. The problem with Gaza is that whilst there are reporters in Egypt, reporters in Israel, there are very few reporters on the ground in Gaza to say what's happening. So we have very limited information, and of course we get videos from the army and videos from people in Gaza, but we have no way of verifying that, so it's very difficult to know what's happening. Now, in the middle of everything, remember I said about normal life, and in Bethlehem how normal life had disappeared. Well, normal life has disappeared in Israel. The Times of Israel have reported that they are pushing to delay municipal elections again. The finance minister Smotrich has urged Netanyahu to get involved. The religious Zionist leader asked the prime minister to convene a meeting of the coalition's party chiefs. I didn't even remember there was a coalition. There's so many things going on. I didn't even remember, Nathalie, we have a coalition in Israel. Anyway, he has called a meeting of the coalition chiefs to decide the issue. The vote was previously postponed by 3 months because of the war. That's the election, sorry, not the vote in the Knesset. The elections were previously postponed because of war, and they're currently scheduled for January 2024 next year. and they're looking to delay those even further. I'm pleading above all not, this is Smoldridge speaking, to hold the local elections at the end of January because of all the fighting. Well, somebody knows something we don't, because we weren't aware that they'll still be fighting at the next year. Smoldridge said that while Shas and UTJ, that's one of the political parties, well, Shas is also a political party in Israel, have made their views clear, Likud's party have not. Religious Zionism is currently polling very poorly in the surveys, and maybe that has some, maybe he is trying to improve the image of the party. So maybe they are trying to improve things, but he says that for military and operational reasons, he does not see that it's possible to have an election, Nathalie, for local elections, which should have happened.
Now, there is two things about that I can add. Same for the students. The students who should go to the university, they said, no, you can't right now come, and it's been delayed to December, and now they are wondering if they're doing also for later on. But it means that it will be all the year. I mean, like when you do 3 months or 2 months of no studying, it's all right. But now if you add again another semester, you can't have a year, so it means that it's going to skip a year anyway. So they are all in pourparlers for all these kind of things. And also we have some friends who are in tourism, and she told me, well, you know, we are not going to have any work till the end of next year, kind of October. So it means that they know things, or things have been said, and we know that it's not going to stop so quickly. And we can see, even in where we live, in our village, we can see how the thing is done long term, it's not done short term. So we can see that things are planned.
Yeah, and you don't normally evacuate people and put them into schools short term. You don't disrupt people's lives in the short term normally. So even right at the beginning, it seems that people knew about this being long term. And I guess that it's really we're really like on the last track now, because we are in the days of the Messiah, his return. People say, well, how do you know that? Well, it's just, if you see everything in the world that's happening, then we are on course for that, for his return. So, and we know Jerusalem is going to be the key, because that's where he's coming back. So that's why everything is bubbling around Jerusalem.
And I have something to tell you, which is a surprise for you. But yesterday I went to buy a book for you, and I was in a shop, and I was asking about books about Geula, and Geula means redemption. And she said, this book is sold. And I say, oh my gosh. And she said, yeah, everybody is buying books about Geula, about the redemption, because they know that it's coming. So it's to tell you, this is the pulse in Jerusalem, to know that people know that there is too many things now. When you add them all together, they can see that redemption is coming soon, because everything is pointing to the Messiah now to come.
Yeah, the redemption being the return of Jesus, the return of Yeshua on the Mount of Olives, the final judgment, the judgment of the nations. So everything is boiling up, is coming for this moment. Yeah. And so whilst you can look at things and say, well, things seem to be going on as they were, it's certainly not going on as it were. And in a way, Nathalie, it's very interesting that it's like a preparation for the people for what will happen, because when Messiah comes, everything will change to a certain degree. And so people need to be in preparation for that. You know, one of the things Jesus said was, will people be ready for my return? And so, you know, we need to be ready. And so there are a lot of shifts in the world, things that are changing.
Now, in the midst of all these things, you know, which is strange, and I've told you when I asked many friends and had one answer, is like I say, since last year, the winter here is not so cold. And for me, I thought, okay, when the redemption is coming, it's going to be more like the Garden of Eden, which is the Garden of Eden. And so it was not cold and it wasn't hot. And it's becoming like the summer is getting not so hot and the winter is not getting so cold. And it's been like that for 2 years already. Slowly, I mean, even like really obviously this year and the year before. And so I asked friends, do you have, and my Jewish friends, do some people speak about these things? And they say, no, I don't know. A friend of mine finds something, and it was very interesting because, you know, during the time, we spoke a lot about the time of Noah, and during the time of Noah, we know about the flood, and at that time, the axis of the earth changed. So before the flood, it was like during the Gan Eden, there was no season. But when the axe changed, we had some season. And so God is going to restore everything. And this is one of the things that He's going to restore. So we have to look at the sign all around us. And we need to have the understanding to see what God is doing.
Well, it's been great to be with you today. Thank you so much for joining us from our studios in Jerusalem to bring you some of the behind the scenes, not just what's happening in the mainstream media, but what's really happening on the ground in Bethlehem, in Israel, and as Nathalie was saying, the preparation for the return of Messiah. If you'd like to know more about the program, please visit the website, which is www.israelfirst.org. There's a contact information. Please also look at the donate page and see if you can help us financially, because that really helps. We can only come to you because of your financial help. And remember, we are the program that looks at the land, the people, and the language.